Okay, let's talk about off the field because this was some 48 hours in the National Football League. Black Monday, they call it. A couple of more coaches got fired. There are now 5 guys gone, which means, in addition, 55 to 75 assistant coaches lost their job too. We'll start in Arizona, which right now looks like it's a mess. The general manager, Steve Keim, is gone. Kliff Kingsbury was jettisoned out of there Sunday night. Cardinals went 7-18 over the last year and a half, despite having Kyler Murray as their starting quarterback. It's a franchise that's just in disarray, and the black mark, I think, again, Kliff Kingsbury is bright light guy, but when people make adjustments to what he's doing, he was never able to counterattack. His end of season numbers as head coach with the Arizona Cardinals, and prior to that in college, are just horrific. It's weird, though. He may be about to get another job. The New England Patriots on Thursday morning made contact with Kingsbury about possibly coming in as the offensive coordinator. So Kliff Kingsbury is gone as head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. Lovie Smith got blown out after 1 year in Houston, 3-13-1. This comes a year after he got blown out at the University of Illinois. Arizona jettisoned him a year after they jettisoned David Curley, who had been there just one season. The Cardinals as a franchise are just an absolute mess. 11-38-1 with their last 3 head coaches. And I'll tell you, this points to the top of the hierarchy on the organizational chart, the owner, Michael Bidwell. He's the one that's made all these decisions. Do you know, John, they owe Kingsbury in Arizona an enormous amount of money? They owe him 5 years on his contract there. In Houston, that thing is a disaster. And I'm surprised that Nick Caserio, a Patriot guy from the Belichick organization, I'm surprised that Caserio, the general manager, hasn't gotten fired because he's the one that's traded all these other players away. And there's an issue there with their ownership. And it might well be the McNair family have the wrong people advising them as to who should be hired. So Houston is a disaster. Houston doesn't have a quarterback on top of it, although they're going to wind up with a second pick in the draft. Of course, earlier in the season, Indianapolis, and what a lot of people think was really unfair, fired Frank Reich. Jeff Saturday finished as head coach. They went 4-12-1. They lost 10 of their last 11. And if you find any quarterback on the street corner, please give them the phone number of the Indianapolis Colts. That's not a good situation because you're dealing with a very impulsive owner in Jim Irsay. Of course, prior to that, a couple of weeks ago, Denver hit the eject button on Nathan Hackett. Now, that to me could be a better job because you got Russell Wilson, or maybe some people would say you're stuck with Russell Wilson for 4 more years, but he played well the back half of the season. You're going to get all your injured players back. You got a number 1 ranked defense, and obviously you've got a lot of young guys at the skill positions, the running back, the wide receivers, all who were hurt. Denver might be a better job than anybody realizes. And of course, Carolina has been in the hole since the early season firing of Matt Rhule. Thing there, they got an impulsive owner also in David Tepper, whose track record has not been very good. So those are the guys that have gotten bounced. Now, you mentioned Dallas Cowboys in the prior segment. If they don't win this playoff game, a lot of people in the Lone Star State think at the Star, Jerry Jones will take Mike McCarthy out.
Wow.
That's kind of an undercurrent theme, although I don't expect Dallas to lose to Tampa Bay. But they haven't been to the Super Bowl in a long, long time, despite all the resources they have and how good their drafts have been and how good their defense is. So put an asterisk under Matt Rhule's name because we might be putting Dallas next to that next week if the Cowboys don't win. Your reaction to the guys who got taken out?
Well, it's Kliff Kingsbury is the name that's interesting because I've heard all the stories about being a bright light, and it makes sense that the Patriots would come calling because don't they have a defensive coordinator running their offense?
They had it, Matt Patricia. I don't think they will have effective next week. I'm led to believe that Robert Kraft met with Belichick at their season-ending evaluation in the middle of this week, and he told him, you will make changes on the offensive staff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to happen. And I think Kingsbury's name just surfaced. The other name that's been mentioned a great deal is Bill O'Brien, former coordinator in New England, former head coach Houston, currently on Nick Saban's staff, the University of Alabama. And he's an old school guy, but he's been very successful as a coordinator, not so much as a head coach. That's where we are there.
Okay, so I mean, it's interesting to see how all of these coaches, there's certain coaches that are like retreads. I mean, Lovie Smith has had how many goes at it now?
Three, well, 2 NFL jobs and the job in the Big Ten.
Yeah, so I like to see fresh faces come in. I mean, guys that are certainly deserving. I mean, we could say, Jeff Saturday maybe wasn't very deserving to get that job in Indianapolis, but I like to see new guys, new career opportunities for some of the bright lights.
Okay,